Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of the After Stangs Show. I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for listening. I'm here in the press box above Oklahoma Stadium right now, recapping a tough 28-11 loss for SMU to the Oklahoma Sooners. The Mustangs threatened to get it to 14-11, but ultimately Oklahoma was just too much, scoring the final 14 points of the ball game in the fourth quarter to give this one to Oklahoma. And so we've got a lot to get to on this edition. So if you have comments, feel free to chime in and ask me them, and I'll get to them. But I do have a few opening thoughts on this loss. I feel like, number one, I've got to start with the SMU defense. They showed up ready to play from start to finish pretty much in this one. And look, you can look at certain points of the game where Oklahoma was able to put a drive together and get something on the board, whether it was a long 94-yard touchdown drive in the first half, whether it was pulling away late. But SMU's defense really came ready to play. In the first half, SMU held them to 168 total yards of offense. Again, 94 of those 168 yards coming on one touchdown drive. And if you're SMU, you've got to feel encouraged by that defensively. And Rhett Lashlee, that was exactly how he felt. This is an SMU defense that they brought in a bunch of players to help address some of the needs. And they found that in a defense that, look, they gave up 197 yards in the second half, a little bit worse. But honestly, SMU is kind of playing from behind. The defense was put in some bad situations here and there. But for SMU, this defense, I feel like, arrived against the Sooners and made their presence known to all of those that were kind of watching them from afar, seeing what they would do in this game. This was a pretty big statement for them.
Again, yeah, we got beat 28-11 and give them credit, but I think we all know the game was a lot closer than that. Give them credit in the last 12 minutes. They beat us 14-0, so they deserve that part. But for 3.5 quarters, it was pretty much even matched, and I think both defenses had a lot to do with that. I'm really proud of our defense.
You didn't get too much from Rhett Lashlee there on it, but you could just kind of get that sense from him that this was a defensive performance that SMU can build confidence with. They were able to, go out there and slow down an Oklahoma offense that has a returning quarterback in Dillon Gabriel, who's made plenty of plays for them. Outside of Tawi Walker, SMU was really able to bottle up that Oklahoma run game as well. Marcus Major, the starting running back, 8 carries, 39 yards, which is a decent clip for him, but it just felt like he wasn't able to get going as much until maybe late in the game. He was able to make, his presence felt in the passing game, catching a touchdown pass there at the end to kind of put it on ice. But when you look at what SMU is able to do defensively, they sacked Dillon Gabriel once. And I felt like early in the game, Elijah Chapman's sack felt like that was going to maybe push this one in that direction where SMU was able to get more pressure. And I felt like here and there, they were able to get him off his timing a little bit. But again, you got to credit Oklahoma's offensive line. That's a unit that is historically one of the better ones across the country year in, year out. They were able to kind of bottle up a lot of that pressure in a way. But SMU's defense was able to create some really, really good stops. They were able to slow down Oklahoma's offense. They limited them to 2 of 3 on fourth down. They got a big fourth down stop after Jalen Knighton's fumble. We'll kind of get to that in a bit. But overall, this defense, to give up only 176 through the air, 189 yards rushing, that's pretty good. OU's yards per play sitting there under 5, not a bad position to be in against a powerful offense like this. Now, on the flip side, SMU has some things to clean up offensively. And I felt like watching this game, I didn't need to see from SMU some of the reverses, some of the trickery. They opened the second half with a flea flicker that ultimately led to them going 3 and out. They tried the I don't know what it's called, but when you hide Roger Daniels and they kind of handed it off to him, that might work in other scenarios, maybe against an ACC team. But I felt like for SMU, they were really. I just felt like they didn't need to do any of that. So as I review kind of that SMU loss to Oklahoma, I think that's what really sticks in the back of my mind is SMU going too cute offensively in moments. And look, they do have a lot to clean up offensively and kind of try to, hit some of the big plays they were unable to and capitalize on opportunities. And I think that's the story of the game for me when I'm looking at this one from SMU's perspective. They had opportunities. And I asked Jake Bailey after the game if he felt like this is something where it's kind of maybe simplify things. And I didn't say it in a way that was calling out play calling or anything like that, but I feel like watching some of the reverses, Moochie Dixon had one, it was for a loss. Roger Daniels had one or two, went for a loss. They just had opportunities to beat OU. And I felt like at times, maybe simplifying it would help SMU overall. And, that's something where I think it's really hard when you're Rhett Lashley, who has a lot of tricks in the bag, but he has a team. And I think this is a compliment. He has a team that doesn't need a lot of that, in my opinion. They have the players that could clearly go toe to toe with Oklahoma. And I think sometimes some of the reverses and some of those window dressing that we've seen were just too much in this game because I think that it just set them back behind the chains a little bit too much at times. And it's something that maybe if SMU simplifies things, which look, they're going to get an opportunity to do against Prairie View A&M next week, maybe they're going to be able to click on some of those bigger plays as they run as they could run a more traditional run the football, run your pass packages and all of those things. Watching this team, SMU's too talented. They don't need to do some of those trick plays and some of the cute stuff that we've seen, over the last 2 years to beat a team. And I felt like this week it kind of set them back. But Jake Bailey said they're maybe just a little bit away from clicking as an offense.
Still early in the season, a lot of things to clean up. A lot of young guys on the field. All sorts of things. Could be a lot of different things, but like I said, fixable. Not things that are going to hinder us. Hopefully in the future, things that we can go in Sunday, Monday, and get fixed right away, and we'll be better for it. So, learning lessons.
And learning lessons, I think, is a great way to put this game for SMU because they do have the opportunity to run the table the rest of the way. And I think watching this team play against Oklahoma and do some of the things that they did to them throughout the game, especially defensively, that's something that caught my eye. Is that athletically, I didn't think SMU looked out of place. They didn't look like they didn't belong on this field. There were matchups that OU was able to exploit, I think, and really, put them in a better position to win. But Rhett Lashley, said it best, I think, after the game, just that they felt confident going into this game. They felt like this is a program that has now reached a point where they can go into games like this and, be in a position to win and are expected to win. And I said that going into this game, that SMU has a team to do this. And, Rhett Lashley said he and his staff feel validated after watching this game.
Yeah, we're always going to be disappointed when we lose. We don't come anywhere to not win. So I told the guys we're really disappointed in the outcome. Disappointed we didn't win. Disappointed we didn't win when we put ourselves in position to win late. But I think what we already felt it. We felt like we had a good football team coming into this game. We felt like we had a team that could win and could compete here. And I think we just showed that to everybody else. And we got a lot of guys banged up. I was really proud of the way the O-line played with J.O. going out and Logan Parr going out. We were getting really thin there. Jordan Hudson going out. I think all those guys, we don't know. I think they're not major long-term things. We're hopeful, but I'm just proud of the way they battled. But we felt like we had a good team. So I don't think we were surprised. I think, if anything, this just validates what we think, but we still got to go do it.
Yeah, you heard Rhett Lashley there, and the validation, I think, from SMU's angle here is important long term, because you can't look at this loss for SMU in the microcosm of what it means for the entire season. Because if you watch the offense play against Oklahoma, you're going to have some concerns, and right now they need somebody to step up in a big way at receiver as far as a big play maker. Jake Bailey, 7 targets, 7 receptions, 73 yards, 37 yards after the catch. Pretty good performance from him. I felt like Moochie Dixon, 6 targets, 3 receptions, 42 yards. He was reliable in moments, I felt like, for SMU. They need an RJ Maryland to step up and get to that next level. I feel like offensively, SMU is close to hitting those big plays. You look at the opening, series for SMU that they had Roger Daniels running wide open down the middle of the field with a chance to score a touchdown, go up 7-0. Instead, they miss. Then they get the punt blocked. OU on the board, 7-0. And that's the small margin of error for SMU against a team like Oklahoma. When you look ahead to the schedule and things are happening all over college football, I saw Charlotte just playing Maryland tough, Rice, beating up on Houston last time I checked. There are opportunities down the line for SMU to make big plays. This is a team that against Oklahoma had to make those to win the game. They had opportunities. I mean, Scott Simons and this defensive staff put together a terrific game plan. Mary Lou Lovell in the comments right here saying, how about some credit to Coach Simons and the staff? And I opened the show with that. This is a defense that stepped up in a big way. You have a group that faced a Dylan Gabriel offense that had Marcus Majors and Tawi Walker and Andrell Anthony and Drake Stoops and all these guys, that Jalil Farouk that are big time players and can make big plays. And we saw that in spurts here and there when they were given some opportunities, placed on a platter. SMU, they were able to step up defensively and make some big plays. Even after that Jalen Knighton fumble, which that fumble is big in the course of the game. SMU is driving; they're well inside OU territory, and he fumbles the ball away. That is something that you can't do and beat a team like Oklahoma. Preston Stone's interception late, that was garbage time, like bad throw, all the things, but it didn't have an outcome on the game, really. But this defense really answered the bell multiple times, I felt like. And that's the thing that I was encouraged. And talking with the players after, this team just has this confidence. I said it going through fall camp. They seemed a lot more mature. You add a guy like Jonathan McGill. You get a guy like Jake Bailey back healthy. He's got that maturity. You have a lot of guys overall who can really help you continue to build that culture. And I didn't see any quit from SMU. Never saw that once tonight. And there were moments where that game was maybe hanging in the balance from getting ugly, and they were able to step right up to the plate and respond. And so I think that's an overall mindset that they're building in this program. And today was a really good step in the right direction, and the players are feeling that too.
I think it's a completely different mindset. We came into this game expecting to win fully, and it's obviously sucks that we lost, but we battled to the end, and I think we're all proud of that. But like I said, we expected to win this game as much as any other game on our schedule. So I think that's where we're at. We want to be that type of team, and we're getting there. Steps have been taken.
Yeah, I think it kind of speaks to kind of the maturity of the team and of this group that we have. A lot of guys, play some ball, and just young guys that are just mature already as it is, and so kind of just gives us a sense of we just got to be a little bit more persistent, but we know kind of how talented we are, and we know how good we can be when we're firing on all cylinders, and so we know we can beat any opponent that's on our schedule. And this, as Jake said, this was just another game on the schedule for us. Dope environment, obviously, but when you strap it up and all the cloud settles, we just know it's just guys, X's and O's, and so that's kind of where our head's at.
And look, SMU, I mean, you need that mindset booster. And I think this is a game that does that for them because the defense really stepped up. And look, and I'm in the process of writing my full kind of reaction rather than just a game recap. But against a team like Oklahoma, you are not going to get all the stops. You're just not. Jeff Levy's one of the best offensive coordinators in the country. Some OU fans are probably disagreeing with me right now if they're listening, but he's one of the best offensive coordinators in the country for a reason. He can tee up some things that are there. And we saw SMU on the flip side. Rhett Lashley is one of the better play callers in the country. I think sometimes he gets too cute, but I'm sitting here watching SMU week in, week out, try to put it together. And I'm seeing simplify as the answer when I watch SMU play. But, when you have opportunities to get guys down, SMU did that fairly well against OU. I think one thing that you saw as SMU continues to build talent on their defense, and they will eventually address other positions still, is you go up against a guy like Tawi Walker that's just built incredibly well, super strong, physical. He's going to break some runs, and he did that on that, especially that long touchdown drive where, going into the first half, into halftime, he had, I think, 68 yards rushing. I'd have to check, but about 60 of those were on that drive. He was that physical of a force. And so overall, SMU was able to do a lot of the things they wanted to. You finished with 3 tackles for loss. I think that's something they had other opportunities to do. And like OU, two of 3 on 4th down. I can think of one of those that, look, they had him behind the line. I think Jalen Samuels kind of had him wrapped up, but they needed one more guy to kind of gang tackle, and they couldn't get it done. And you pick up the first down, and OU's able to kind of keep going. But later in the drive, they bowed up and they were able to get a stop. And I think this was a frustrating game for OU. I think they were out of sync at various points. SMU played really physical. I think that's something that's now you can consider it a calling card of this defense. But those are opportunities that OU with their talent is going to make teams pay for. And that's just the reality of it with how good they are offensively. When you look at SMU, I want to finish with this. And I felt like the run game they had moments where they were good. That Jalen Knight long run before he fumbled, that was, starting to maybe snowball a little bit, and they can get some momentum, but he fumbles. But I did feel like OU was able to hold SMU to a reasonable amount in the run game. And the reason why I circle that is because if you're going to run the reverses and things like that, I've got to include those with that. And those are otherwise opportunities for maybe a Jalen Knighton, who is Rhett Lashley. You'll hear him in a second. He says he averaged 5 yards a carry. I think it was a 23-yard run that he had. You could take that away, and he's down to 14 carries for 53 yards. So that's not an incredible average, but overall, SMU, he felt like got a good little push. And I feel like LJ Johnson, I don't know if he was nicked up, but 9 carries, 21 yards. He kind of had some moments, but he also had some moments where he ran into, a brick wall on that SMU offensive line, kind of getting stalemated at the point of attack. It was just kind of hit or miss for me with the run game today. And again, I think I got to circle that back to the reverses. Some of those opportunities are being taken from guys who can certainly make some plays in the run game. So, Rhett Lashley, though, quite frankly, he kind of disagreed with me, which is totally fine as he reviewed the run game after the game.
If you look at stats, you can say that. If you watch the game, we ran the ball decent. I mean, we popped some runs. We had a couple that were close to being really long. We hit them on some powers, hit them on some counters, hit them on stretch. Jalen popped an inside zone out the backside. I mean, there were times that you could feel the momentum, and we were running the ball well. And we had to. We couldn't just drop back and pass every time. And what we threw at 45 and ran at 34. And like I said last week, if you can run at 40, it's usually good. We didn't quite get there. But, could we be more explosive? Sure. I mean, Jalen ran for over 5 yards a carry. It's pretty good. So we didn't run it bad at all.
So for SMU, couple closing thoughts here. Preston Stone finishes the day 26 of 45, 250 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Again, that interception kind of garbage time. It was a bad throw, but it did not have an impact on the game in the end. Although those people that were watching, covering, I mean, that's a whole nother thing. But I feel like there were moments where Preston Stone was in complete command, and there were other times where I think he felt rushed. Oklahoma, only sacked him one time, though. I'm trying to quickly pick up the hurries that they had defensively. But this was an OU front that had opportunities to maybe get some pressure. 5 quarterback hurries is what they were credited with, but they didn't necessarily get that home. I think Preston had a really good amount of time. You're talking about an offensive line that lost Justin Osborne. Rhett Lashley said they lost Logan Parr. So you had Ben Sparks and PJ Williams playing a lot. But overall, I mean, he feels like Preston Stone's going in the right direction. This is one of those games where, that's why I said it in the opening, SMU needs to have a true big play guy, step up on offense at the wide receiver position. I'll also caveat by saying when SMU has struggled to throw the ball with Rhett Lashley, We've seen teams drop 8 and they've had to take what they've given them. Yeah, we've seen that. We know that's the game plan at this point to slow down this offense when you don't have a guy like Rashee Rice. So it's something that they're going to have to work through, and Preston Stone's just going to have to keep on developing.
Honestly, thought he was pretty gutty. Did a really nice job. I mean, it's hard to put into words how many looks he saw tonight. I bet you he saw 20 different defenses. I mean, they run everything. And he was calm. We did a nice job of protecting him, I thought we protected him better this game than we did the last game. Sometimes they were only rushing 3 because they were dropping 8, but still, he found a lot of guys intermediate and holes in the zone. Was poised, flushed when he needed to, late, made some really big plays. He extended it. I thought he's played really, really steady 2 games in a row, and I think his development's going to continue. But it's a big moment to go on the road at a place like this, and he didn't seem to faze him one bit.
And so, one final note here. Look, SMU gets a punt blocked, and then I feel like Ryan Gachewski really cleaned things up from there. Obviously, I had 2 punts, 90 yards, pretty good. And he's one of those guys that is usually pretty reliable. And Rhett Lashley said he didn't know if it was something in the operation in terms of how quickly it happens or doesn't happen in terms of getting the punt off with the punt block. But they obviously missed a guy off the edge in Peyton Bowen, who haven't seen him in high school, and seeing him once again. He's lightning fast. He almost picked off Preston Stone on one of their 4th downs that they tried to get it to Jordan Curley late in the game when they had to go for it. But, I think special teams, Colin Rogers missed a 49-yard field goal. I'd like to see Roger Daniels be a little bit more sure-handed. He muffed one. They didn't get much out of the return game from him. 2 punt returns for -5 yards. Brian Massey lets a kick drop at the 1. He thought it was going in the end zone, and all of a sudden SMU starts out on its own 8, and that final drive is not final drive, but one of their last shots to really, get this game, back to a 1-score game. But so special teams got to get cleaned up. Last week it was 2 missed field goals that, for Colin Rogers, you'd like to see him make one of those 2 misses that he had last week. This week he misses a 49-yarder. It's a tough ask. It's never easy. He missed it wide right. It wasn't, short, or it wasn't blocked, which is good. So your protection's good, but he's just got to, find a way to, become a weapon, because he's got the talent. He's got the leg. And this week SMU didn't kick off much, but didn't see that pop up as far as kicking the ball out of bounds. So they got that cleaned up. For SMU, this is a game. I'll end with this because they're going to probably kick me out of the press box here soon. But this is a game that you can kind of look at, and it's been talked about as a measuring stick. And I think SMU measured up well. When you project this game to the ACC or TCU in a couple weeks, one, I think you feel good about where you're at with TCU. That's a game that, once again, we talk about, the season predictions. I didn't pick SMU to beat Oklahoma. I did pick SMU to beat TCU, and I feel pretty good that SMU shot to beat TCU if the offense can hit on some of those things that they're maybe missing on right now. And then you project to the ACC and you say, okay, you need to keep addressing the offensive line a little bit. You got to get stronger there. You got to get better. That's something that you can do with the transfer portal and get ready for next season. You look at just adding overall talent and kind of, continuing to add depth defensively. I mean, I felt like the defense was great. You just keep adding that depth and talent through the transfer portal. At wide receiver, losing Jordan Hudson early in this game, he was pretty much out the entire game, or definitely not 100%. They've got to continue to they've got to get him involved when he's available. It's tough when he's not available. But SMU, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different receivers caught passes. Stone Eby caught a touchdown, which was pretty cool to see for him. It's been quite the journey there, but they spread it around. They get different guys involved. Somebody, though, has to step up at wide receiver for SMU going into TCU and going into the conference slate, because that's what's going to allow this offense to click. I think they're okay at running back. I think the run game is going to be fine. I would personally take out a lot of the reverses and kind of some of the window dressing that's going on right now, but that's just me. That's why I sit here, not in the SMU coaches booth, which is down the hall here. But for SMU, they showed up. They played a very competitive game. This is not a loss and it's not a moral victory, but it's not a loss that you should feel that bad about in terms of where the program is heading. You have to look at this game and say, it was a missed opportunity. And once again, for SMU heading on the road to a Power 5 program, missed opportunities, mistakes cost them. There was a fine margin of error against an OU team that looks like they're going to be one of the best ones in the Big 12. And so they let this one slip away. They had opportunities, but they just couldn't get it done. So that's how the cookie crumbles some days. But I think there's a lot to build on, especially defensively here for SMU. Some things to clean up offensively, but that's about it. We're going to have more coverage at ontheponyexpress.com. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, follow us wherever you listen to your podcast. This will be on podcast platforms as well. So appreciate all you guys who listen. Again, we'll have this up on the podcast here later tonight. But that's all from Norman as SMU falls 28-11 to Oklahoma. They face Prairie View A&M next weekend in a night game at Ford Stadium. So we'll catch you then, as always. So be sure to keep it locked out on the Pony Express for all your coverage. Just $1 to sign up for your first month. So appreciate all you guys who have done that. And we'll catch you next time on another edition of the After Stangs Show next week after Prairie View A&M. Already got a nice guest lined up from the player side of things for that one. So we'll catch you then. Thanks for listening, and have a great night, everyone. Appreciate you listening.